The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the producers and the individuals appearing on this program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the staff of the Sun Prairie Media Center, its members or underwriters, the board members of the Media Center Commission, Charter Communications, TDS Telecom, or the staff and elected officials of the City of Sun Prairie.
Hello, and welcome to Real Reviews. My name is Jamison Rabbit. The man seated next to me, well, he's his own evil twin. His name is Mike Roth.
You could tell from the beard and mustache.
That's exactly. That was a dead giveaway.
Yeah, it is. My nice me doesn't have one of those, obviously. And obviously, I have them in some sort of container somewhere where no one can find them.
Right. That is really the dead giveaway. You walk in, I'm like, oh, a beard, huh?
Mm-hmm. And I got them on Nagco Laugh, too.
Well, we've noticed that. Wonder what the good Mike has.
Nothing. Just enough airspace, I guess.
Horrifying. So this week we have two huge movies on the marquee. But before we get to that, you got to stick around first as we talk about a streaming spotlight for this week. This week we have a Netflix film called The Dirt from director Jeff Tremaine. Jeff Tremaine is known basically for being the guy who created all the Jackass movies, as well as Bad Grandpa.
Terrible.
So here we go. Big time filmmaker. Anyways, The Dirt is the biopic, the rock biopic of the band Motley Crue, kind of based on their autobiographies that they've written. And it's really kind of it's kind of a by the numbers biopic of these guys and their rise and fall. You know, pretty standard, like things were great and then the fall came and what happened after that. Kind of hits on the highlights of their lives and their careers. The cast was decent. I especially really liked the guy who played Mick Mars. Iwan Rohn, I believe is his name, played Mick Mars. He was really good. He was kind of the one character who had some bit of depth to him. I kept having to remind myself that Machine Gun Kelly was playing Tommy Lee because he didn't look or sound or act like Tommy Lee at all to me, but it's neither here nor there. I think it was weird. There were some weird things that were done in this movie. So Jeff Tremaine decided to use voiceover narration throughout the film. And so each of the four members of the band kind of have their own voiceover narration over events, and it kind of gets confusing because some of the voices sound very similar, and you have to and it just feels like it pulls you away. And then on top of all this different narration, then they also have characters break the fourth wall and talk directly to the audience in the middle of it too, like their manager and other people, and and this is the time, blah blah blah. Like, this is too much outside the movie storytelling. Like, you obviously, and that kind of is my big gripe with this movie, is it feels like it was like the screenplay was written by, I don't know, somebody who wrote like Saved by the Bell episodes, like that level of screenwriting talent.
Or maybe Bad Grandpa.
Bad Grandpa. Yeah, and so there's a lot of having other people just kind of tell the narration of what's going on instead of showing it on screen. And that was kind of weird to me. You know, Motley Crue is an interesting story as a band, and they are, huge rock stars of that time period. They represent a huge era in rock music and living the rock and roll lifestyle. The music is great. I mean, I'm a fan of Motley Crue, but the dialogue in this movie is brutal, and it feels like a VH1 behind the music. It felt no different, like nothing else. It's just hitting on highlights, and they're trying to jam so much stuff into it that no characters are developed, nothing else. It's just like highlights. And here's the time. Like stories that you've heard, like this is the time that they met Ozzy Osbourne and he snorted a bunch of ants off a sidewalk. Like, I remember hearing that story many times, and it was in their books. So show it. All right. And then the time that this happened, and then the time that, so-and-so got married. And it was just kind of like a greatest hits package of scenes. I don't know.
Well, at least it's better than what he has been doing, because if he said it's VH1 quality, Bad Grandpa was a watchable mess.
It's really bad. The other issue I had with this movie is because it's so just throwing events at you, and then this happened, it's hard to tell what when things are happening. Is this the 80s? Is it the 90s? Like, I can only judge by haircuts?
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, this must have been then after this point. But, like, kind of things are just kind of thrown at you, events that happen with them. Now, having said all that, like, I did enjoy it. The music is great. They were smart to use the actual tracks and not let these jokers sing.
Now, for someone who loathed their music, even back in the day, I
Yeah.
was one of the odd people who
Then you
really
don't
did not
need
like.
this.
Okay, good.
Here's my thing: is I think that if you didn't know or care about this band, then this film would not make you care about them. I think it plays to people who are like, "Oh man, yeah, I love Crue." Well, unfortunately, a lot of the people that are like that kind of know a lot of these stories. Like,
Yeah.
I've read some of the biographies. I've watched the VH1 behind the music.
Mm-hmm.
So this was kind of just all the same stuff, only with kind of rough actors portraying it for me
Okay.
instead of seeing footage.
Uh-huh.
And so it was just kind of, yeah. You know, I was kind of excited for this when I heard that they were making it. Like, oh, cool, rock and roll or Motley Crue biopic.
Yeah.
It was all right. I don't remember what I gave it. Let's see what the man gave it. Did I give it 3 stars?
3 stars? Wow. You
Sounds awful generous after my review, doesn't it?
exactly. Really, I was expecting maybe a 2. What happened?
I would bump it down to a 2.5 if I could.
Okay.
2.5 seems fair. It's very meh to me.
Yeah.
And that's coming from a fan perspective. If I didn't care about them,
Uh-huh.
it would probably be a 2. Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah.
The Dirt
I'm
on
sorry.
Netflix.
And a lot of people have seen it. I've been seeing
Yeah.
it spring up all over Facebook that
Right.
people are watching it and they have their favorite characters and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But again, I look at the hair metal as a dark, dark time of American music.
Yeah. The other thing that was weird to me is they treat them as heroes no matter the situation.
Yeah.
And they weren't.
No, they weren't. None of them
It's
were.
like, no, but these guys are heroes. Anyways, let's move on to what we have on the marquee first. And we had a movie that actually we got a little sneak preview of. Doesn't actually come out. We'll talk about it later in the show, but doesn't actually come out to grand audiences, the worldwide release for another week.
And I feel pretty happy that we're able to review this
Sure.
pretty soon. Of course, a lot of other people also had the option to see it, but this is DC's newest film, and right away that should probably give some people some chills. But wait it out. The Shazam. This is a lesser-known character compared to all the other DC characters. Shazam is the character of Billy, and he is a struggling kid. He can't find his mother. He lives in a foster home. He's trying to find his mother.
First off, this is very DC, a superhero with mommy issues.
Yeah, and
That's kind of all of their heroes.
and this is dark, but they take. Billy ends up getting powers. He goes to a special realm where there's wizards, and there's one remaining wizard holding back the 7 deadly sins, and he wants to give this power to someone else. He ends up giving it to Billy,
Someone
which
pure of heart.
turns him into an adult superhero. He has pretty much everything Superman has, except for the lasers or cold breath.
Sure.
He can't zip around the world and reverse
He's pretty
time.
fast, but you can't turn back the clock. But
Yeah, he's all around bulletproof, super strong. Later on, we find out he can do other things, not going to tell you. And the cool part about it is DC actually made a movie that I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah.
They take a cue from Big. They even take a scene from Big
Yeah.
and throw it in here. Upon revisiting Big, I found out that 2 of the characters from Big are in this one. We got Josh and Billy. It's just they're in reverse. And it tells a fantastic story about a kid finding out what family is and what family means.
Right.
And the humor of watching, and I know it sounds cliche, we've seen this before, a kid as adult making a kid-like decisions, but it's funny and it's lighthearted,
And
even in a very dark realm.
Zachary Levi was, I think, a great casting choice for this. I was I didn't have any opinion on Zachary Levi when he was cast as this because I don't have a big frame of reference for him.
Yeah.
But I thought he did a great job. He excelled at portraying the child inside the man.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you could see the childlike innocence of Billy Batson through his performance. And when he's talking to his foster brother, Freddie, I liked that. I liked, there was, you mentioned he kind of becomes Shazam, and there's kind of some greatest American hero moments as they're trying to figure out what superpowers does he have? What does this suit do?
Mm-hmm.
And he's in awe of it himself. And also, I like that they kind of veered off into, so he gets these powers, but he's still a 13, 14-year-old kid.
Yeah.
So he treats these powers as like cool tricks to do that can earn him some money.
Yeah.
and because he's a selfish teenager, and that's exactly what a selfish teenager would do. Be
I
like,
would have done the same thing. How do
Yeah.
you make a quick buck? Lightning in the middle of the park.
One of the things I really liked about this movie, which is different than most superhero movies, is that you get an intro of the villain to
Yeah.
open the movie. So you get to kind of see the villain's motivation, played by Mark Strong. You get to see his motivation first, which is really cool. So it's not just a villain thrown in
Yeah.
after we learn about our hero, and then like, oh, and then here comes your bad guy because you're a hero. We see the bad guy being formed first, and like I kind of like that.
And he was a cool bad guy,
And
too.
Mark Strong is awesome.
Well,
He encapsulates the 7 deadly sins, and he's coming after Shazam.
in a lot of cases when they make villains, which is a shame because the villains are just as great as the heroes.
Yeah.
With this one, they had a nice backstory to the villain, and you got to see why he became who he is and who was controlling him. He wasn't, I mean, he was a really bad villain, but at the same time, he was just kind of abused and neglected.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that is kind of the reason why he took this path. I thought that was cool to get a little bit of backstory, which is something we don't get very often.
I really like the cast. I like the kids, the family. I liked all of them. I was enjoying all of that. I like the comedic bits. Kind of borrowing a little bit from Deadpool, where they're like poking fun at other DC franchises throughout the movie, making fun of Aquaman, talking about Superman, and just kind of having some fun with it. It was nice to laugh. I mean, there's one of my favorite little just moments is when Santa Claus is just telling everyone to run as the battle's coming, as they're in this Santa village, and he's like, run, like save yourselves. Like I like that, and I thought that the cast was a lot of fun. I had some nitpick issues with this movie. Some of the psychology with Mark Strong's villain, who he plays Savannah. Some psychology towards the end about he unleashes these 7 deadly sins as physical beings onto people.
Yeah.
And there's some psychology about what he would and wouldn't know about his own powers. That I'm like, I think as a villain, you'd know that this might be causing a problem for yourself.
He seemed to have an ego enough where he felt pretty comfortable losing.
There's also issues within the physics of these demons where, depending on what happens, sometimes if you punch them, you go right through them because they're a mist. Other times you punch them, they go flying.
And
I was like, wait a minute.
And I had the same kind of complaint. My complaint of physics was when the bus was falling. And if a bus falls and it lands on something that is only 5 feet taller than the ground, it still smashes through. It doesn't matter if someone caught it or not. What would have happened in actual science is Shazam would have gone through the bus and everybody would have been a bloody pool at the end of the
back door.
Yeah. But in this one it was like, no, if you have someone catch it, that's a cartoon rule. If someone catches it at the bottom, everybody lives.
I liked the visual effects, especially towards the end when we have the big battle. I thought there was some great just visuals in that, and I don't want to spoil anything because it does come out worldwide upcoming. But there's some moments at the end that I really enjoyed. And I also, I love there's a scene where most of these movies, you have a moment where good guy, bad guy, they're up in the sky, and the bad guy has his monologue about what, you'll learn, and here's what I'm going to do, and blah, blah, blah. And Shazam's like, I can't hear you. We're like a mile apart. Are you saying something over there? And I was dying at that moment. Like, this is great. They are very much cognizant of how silly this is in other movies, but it's an enjoyable flick, man.
I really had a lot of fun. I thought it went a little too long. I had some physics problems, but otherwise, I really had a really good time watching this. It probably would have gotten a better score if they fixed those little minor problems.
And my other little nitpick was I was hoping for something to happen in the stinger scenes, and I thought the stinger scenes were kind of meh.
I didn't get it.
But I don't think it was anything. There was nothing there for it. But yeah, neither here nor there. It's enjoyable. It was fun. It's lighthearted. I think DC's figured things out without Zack Snyder's guidance, and that things can be fun. Superheroes can be cool.
Yeah, I hope that they don't revert back, because
I don't think they will.
I did not like Aquaman at all, and I was looking at that as,
tone.
It is a different tone. It actually was funny. It was a good written story. I liked it a lot.
So what did you end up giving Shazam?
I gave it a 4. Well deserved.
Yeah, I gave it a 4 as well. I'm looking forward to seeing it again.
Yeah.
And taking the kids and having a good time. So when it comes out very soon, we definitely recommend going to check it out. The next movie we have on the marquee is a film that you and I had on our most anticipated list at the beginning of the year, and it's finally upon us. And hopefully it held up better than some of the other most anticipated movies on the list thus far. We have Jordan Peele's newest film, Us, starring Lupita Nyong'o, Winston Duke, Shahadi Wright Joseph, Evan Alex, and Elizabeth Moss. It's Lupita Nyong'o plays a character named Adelaide Wilson. As a young child, she had an incident within a beachside fun house that has left her scared. And, she saw her doppelganger, somebody who was her twin inside this fun house. And it was not just in a mirror. And things may have happened that made her stop talking for a while and scarred her. Now, as a mother, her family is going on vacation to that very same beach. And she is very apprehensive about this. Her son, Jason, goes missing for a moment. She freaks out. She's not sure what's going on. And then that first night, a family who looks eerily like them shows up at their place and forces their way into the house. And this family is the funhouse mirror version of them. They're in red jumpsuits, carrying large shears. They don't really speak. They're kind of terrifying. And they're there for, we're not quite sure why, but they're not there to borrow some sugar.
No.
They are there to cause some trouble. We find out that they are a group called the Tethered, that are an abandoned experiment that was made to try and control the populace through like this shadow version of people. And
I didn't quite get that.
Yeah, they've since been abandoned and left in these tunnels that are underneath all the cities in the country and operating out of there, and they are rising up and trying to come up and be seen. And the one thing that I really, really like about this movie is I think it's some masterful writing from Jordan Peele. You never fully know what's going on, why it's going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's led to a lot of theories about what and why, and I don't normally go into reading people's theories about movies, especially before I'm about to review it.
Yeah.
But I could not get this film out of my mind on the next watch. I'm like, how did this piece together? And I am loving it. Like, it's like an onion. There's so many layers to this story, and I'm still not fully convinced I understand everything or why or what happened. One of my favorite theories is you see the very first shot of the movie is set in the 80s, and this kid is watching TV, and you see VHS tape of the movie Chud, which is one of my favorite guilty pleasures ever, about these subterranean cannibals that have been coming out of the sewers and eating people. It's one of the great bad films. And it really ties into this.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, does that play into it? Chud was shown very prominently on that. I like theories that revolve like it's tied. Jordan Peele tied into that movie. There's a lot in here, though. There's so much going in here. Hands Across America is used in this.
Yeah.
And there's, and I like Jordan Peele's like in interviews says, yeah, it could be. Like people, oh, is this? Did you do this? Did you mean this? Maybe. Does that mean that to you? Great. I love that.
He kind of, to me, when I was watching this, there's a lot of things I did not get about this, about the storyline. The experimental thing else led to a lot of questions about what was going on. And to me, I came down to the conclusion, and I'm sure tons of people will agree with me. Jordan has a great eye. He has a great ability to create an environment that is chilling and powerful, but he has kind of a hard time wrapping up the ends at the end of the movie. I felt that way with Get Out. Fantastic movie, but at the end I was like, ooh, that's not the direction I wanted to go.
You're right.
And I felt the same way with this movie. There's shots in here. There's how Jordan Peele has a control over his acting. Over his actors is amazing.
Lupita Nyong'o was incredible in this movie because she plays herself and then the doppelganger Red, who's a terrifying version of her.
Oh yeah, and every single one of these characters, they were like the same, but grotesque in a different way. One of my favorite scenes in here was by Olivia Moss. She is looking out a window. She's watching her husband die, and she is screaming, but she's not. Her you just like in Get Out, you just see a face, and you see all these emotions go through that face
Yep,
in
but there's no
a
sound.
few seconds, and there's no sound, but you feel everything that you're feeling, and it just gets creepy and eerie. And I'm not going to go too much into it, but I mean, this whole movie is filled with scenes where you get to see so much emotion on every actor's
I
face.
think he does a phenomenal job in this movie too of playing on a lot of different fears. Like this movie feels like several different triggers for different people.
Yeah.
There's the abduction fears of a child to open the movie. There's home invasion fears is a big one in here. As both just as a father, like like they break into the house. That's one of my big fears. Just break in and like, what do I do now? I'm helpless, you know. There's supernatural. He uses religious elements with Jeremiah 11:11, which that Jeremiah 11:11, I've read 1,000 theories about that because 11:11 shows up in this movie constantly. There's moments where their daughter's like, it's 11:11.
Yeah.
A lot of things like that. You have political points with the Hands Across America and how we treat our homeless and all this.
I'm not claustrophobic, but I felt claustrophobic with the tethers downstairs
yeah.
because pretty much everything that's on the surface is down in these tunnels,
it's
and
all
they're
there.
replicating everything.
That was terrifying. There's some moments in that that were like, oh, I don't like this.
They're all in like a crowded doorway, acting like they're in a roller
and then
coaster.
cutting back and forth to what's happening in the real world and what's happening underground.
And there's scenes where they're doing a comparison where Red is doing a ballet while Adeline is also doing a ballet, and you can see they're both ballet, but they're both from very different spots. It's creepy.
And you also have the weird imagery the movie opens with, and then we cut to at the end of just rabbits everywhere. Like, why are it's like panning back and exposing from one rabbit to just dozens and dozens of rabbit cages, and there's like, what's going on? Why? I don't like this. I don't like what's going on. One of the things that I really love too, one of my favorite moments was there's the home invasion. There's some murders happening. Elizabeth Moss and her family, and the song "Good Vibrations" is playing. Like, what a use of "Good Vibrations"! A high tempo, uppity "Good Vibrations," and people are just being hacked to death during it.
Well, same
like,
thing.
This is terrifying.
Your main theme song, they got 5 on it. Is that the name of the song? And it just plays through it, but they play it at different speeds.
Yeah, it starts to.
It's like, oh, this is not a scary song. You're making it scary.
Yeah, I really liked this cast. I like Winston Duke. I loved him in Black Panther, and I wanted to see more of him because I thought he kind of stole some scenes in that movie, and I thought he was really good in this as the father. I like everyone in here. Evan Alex as Jason and Pluto was really effective. The kid, weird kids always get me. And he was weird. I didn't understand the Chewbacca mask, and it freaked me out.
I like that even though we don't get to see all the alternate names, there is alternate names for every single one, which makes me think Jordan Peele really lived this.
He's got this world in his head. Yeah. I think that a lot of this movie is what you bring into this movie is what you will take out of it.
Okay.
I think a lot of it is it's obviously very purposely left open-ended.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is, take away with it what you will. And it can be your story. And I think that's what Jordan Peele's been getting a lot of Hitchcock comparisons now in the last couple weeks, both because of this and because of the Twilight Zone series that he is helming that will come soon. And I like it because he did do a lot of Hitchcock of don't show you everything. Let your mind work on why that is and why that isn't. And this type of story writing feels like an episode of Twilight Zone. It makes me more excited than I could possibly be for the Twilight Zone series. And I'm like, this is an episode of that, of like creepy subterranean doppelgangers of you. Like, why?
Jordan Peele also has a great sense of how to use light too, and I'm sure if we watch this in black and white, it would probably be just as powerful, if not more.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting movie that I'm looking forward to watching a couple more times in the very near future, trying to, because I do have some theories about certain things in this movie, and I need to watch it with those in mind and sort out whether that's a thing or not, and then come back to it again.
Kind of like how we did with Mother.
Yeah.
Which you do have to see a second time.
Like it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one worked out a little better the second time for me. What did you end up giving us?
I gave it a 4. It was a great movie. I really enjoyed myself. I did have a problem with the end.
Okay.
And that's it. Pretty much, I loved everything else. Just the end was weird.
My score, I can see my score moving around in the future. Right now, I have it at a 4.5 stars.
Okay.
And I can see it. This is a movie that's very much alive in my head still, which is kind of cool. Those don't happen all the time. It's not a movie you just watch and forget, which I kind of like. So right now, I have it as a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Both of us are saying, go check it out.
Yeah, definitely check it out.
Absolutely. All right. For our movie throwback this week, we stuck in the year 1988. Our time machine is stuck in 88. And we had a film that you've referenced as we were talking about Shazam.
Yeah.
A film that is very, very tied in with that.
Yeah.
What do we got?
We got Big.
Yeah.
If you have not heard of this film, this is one of Tom Hanks' greatest films. He has got tons of great films. Never mind,
that's a
scratch
list.
that.
That's a list.
It's on a list somewhere
one
of
of his
films that are
films.
awesome. In this one, Tom Hanks plays Josh, not Billy, but his best friend is Billy. There's your reference. Josh, he has a hard time being a kid. All the adults do all the cool stuff. So he goes to his Zoltar machine, which is it's a fortune-telling machine, and he makes a wish that he wants to be big. He wakes up the next day as a full-grown adult. Of course, parents don't like that because that's weird.
Yeah.
And he is kind of forced to go out on his own and just be an adult. He gets a really cool job. He gets a girlfriend. His best friend is still Billy, but as this movie goes on, it is mostly just an adult living with a child's mind, and you get to see all the same kind of jokes, just a little different.
Unleashing Tom Hanks and his comedic genius.
And we were just having a conversation about this earlier. What were you saying about all the other actors?
That originally he was cast to be Robert De Niro in the Tom Hanks role in 1988.
That's
What?
weird.
That movie would have stunk. Interesting. I was doing a little research on this too. Was that well? First off, this was directed by Penny Marshall.
Oh yeah.
This was the film that made Penny Marshall the first female director to ever have a $100 million movie. So this was the first one. It was like, see, female director can actually make a blockbuster. Jerks. Try and make, And then also, in this time period, there were, just in 1988 alone, there were 3 other body swap / adult playing a kid movies. You had 18 Again. You had Vice Versa with Judge Reinhold and Fred Savage. And you had 14 Going on 30.
18 Again, that was George Burns, wasn't it?
It was George Burns and Kirk Cameron. You also had the next year, Dream a Little Dream, where Corey Feldman body swaps with an old guy. And then the year before that, you had like Father Like Son. It was a thing in this time period of like, let's do these switcheroos.
Big was the first, though, right? I mean,
it was
first
not
big one.
actually. Well, I think it was the first big one. Like Father Like Son was 1987.
Okay.
Where we did a little body swap, but it was a thing where everyone was doing it. Let's have some fun. But this was obviously the best, most successful one.
I wanted to do some research and I forgot to do it. Shazam was a character before this movie. I thought the
Shazam was a character in the 40s.
Really?
The Captain Marvel character.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Then I guess this is where they got their
Yeah,
inspiration.
I mean, there was a great Shazam series in the 70s, TV series.
You're right.
He drove around in his van.
Yep, I forgot about that.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think there's a couple of really iconic things that came out of this. First off, the Shimmy Shimmy Cocoa Pop rap, which I remember doing a ton of.
Oh, yeah.
And the iconic piano scene, the large floor piano in F.A.O. Schwartz with him and Robert Loggia doing chopsticks and all that stuff. I wanted one of those little pianos.
I did too. Synthesizers were really cool back then too.
They
So
were.
it didn't have to be big, and I would have wanted
Absolutely.
one. Yeah.
Big it's a ton of fun. Another one. It held up for me. I watched it. I was having a lot of fun with it. Like, oh man, I'm so glad it held up. It would have really bummed me out. Like, oh, it actually kind of stinks, and it's kind of racist. That's always what I'm afraid of.
Which is something that happens a lot in our favorite movies in the 80s, yes.
Oh, man. So anyways, that's our throwback. Let's take a look ahead real quick at the movies that will be coming out April 5th. We have 4 movies on the screen that week. The first one is The Best of Enemies, Taraji P. Henson and Sam Rockwell, about segregation in schools in the South. We also have Pet Sematary.
Looking forward to it.
Yep.
It's been a while.
Shazam will be coming out in all theaters at that time.
We
so
already
April
got
5th.
it, so.
Go check it out. And then Amazing Grace, which is they just found all this footage of Aretha Franklin. It's a documentary, basically, of young Aretha Franklin performing at this church, like a 3-hour service that she did. That I've heard legends about this recording. It was the greatest moment. And I'm excited to check this out. So Amazing Grace will be coming out as well.
I'm still really excited to have that one movie
Yeah,
with the kid
it's
that
coming.
goes through the
Easter.
ice.
Couple more weeks.
Yeah. I just want to see those trailers end.
I'm with you. Next week, we're going to be talking about Dumbo, Beach Bum, and who knows what else. We'll have a fun throwback for sure. If you want to find more from us, find us on Facebook or Twitter, Real Reviews TV. And we have to thank our sponsor, The Palace here in Sun Prairie, Marcus Theaters. Thank you for sponsoring our program. You are the best. You can check us out. We'll be live at Marcus Theaters on April 12th. If you want to come out and check us out during the day, we'll be there doing our show live there. We would love a studio audience heckling us. It'd be a great time.
If you come there just because we're doing the show,
Yeah.
we'll let you be on air for a couple seconds.
I love it.
Yep.
I can't wait. So anyways, that's all coming up. But until next week, I'm Jamison.
I'm Mike Roth.
Have a good one.